Hi friends, welcome to another video. In this particular video, we are going to discuss the basic rules to design the columns. So column is a very important structure which is used to transfer loads from buildings to the foundations. So this is really important for each civil engineer to know that what are the basic rules to design the column. So before going ahead, I would like you to please subscribe our channel because we make videos on daily basis, and if you want to stay connected with our channel, then this is the best way to subscribe our channel. Thank you. So let's get started. There are the several rules to design the column, and before getting started, you must know that what is actually column. So column is a structural member which carries the loads from slab, beams, and stairs, and all the way transfers it to the footings and finally to the soil. So it's really important to know that what are the basic rules that should be kept in mind while designing and selecting the columns for the different structures. So this video is specifically dedicated to understand the basic rules for the columns. So the very first one is you have to choose the particular shape of the column, and normally we have different shapes of column, including the square and rectangular, but normally we have the rectangular column that is used to carry the compressive force along the way to the foundation. So the advantage of this rectangular column is it can also accommodate the eccentric loads. If you would have visited the site, you mostly see the rectangular columns. So in most of the cases, these rectangular columns are specified, and it can also carry the axial loads, which are actually eccentric loads that have some distance from the axis or the central axis. So whenever the load comes at any point other than center of column, then we can use and prefer this rectangular column, and that's why we can have the uniform distribution along the axis. Otherwise, we can also prefer the rectangular square columns, and obviously we can also have the circular columns. So the second parameter that is really important is spacing between the steel bars in the column. So it's really important to understand that what should be the spacing between the bars. Normally the spacing between the lateral ties is kept as 100 to 200 millimeter, and while fixing these lateral ties, obviously we may have the different configuration as it is elaborated here, that whenever you use the lateral ties, and then you may have the different spacing anywhere between 100 to 200 millimeter. So it changes accordingly. The third one is the number of the longitudinal reinforcement bars. So the number of longitudinal reinforcement bars depends on the shape of the column. If you are going to select a rectangular column, then obviously you should select at least minimum 4 bars for that column. And on the other hand, for a circular column, there must be 6 longitudinal reinforcements in order to support the steel and the reinforcements, specifically lateral reinforcements. Okay, the fourth parameter, that is the diameter and the size of longitudinal bars. So when we talk about the diameter of longitudinal bars, we have the several variations and different numbers of bars that are available in market. But for longitudinal bars, the minimum size of steel should not be less than 12 millimeter. And same goes that you should not add too much steel because it can create congestion in the column while concrete pouring. So the maximum size of the steel should be 50 millimeter. And you can just see the different diameter of the bars specifically mentioned here in this figure. And apart from that, you can also find through the market. The fifth one is the concrete grades for different columns. So for the preliminary selection of any kind of column, the minimum grade of concrete should be M20, which means that the mixed ratio of different aggregates should be 1:1.5 ratio 3. So 1 shows the ratio of or the percentage or the part of cement, 1.5 is the part of sand, and 3 is the ratio of coarse aggregate. The sixth one is the shape of the bar bendings in the column. So normally it is preferred that the bars are bent into the dock leg shapes in order to have the proper reinforcement and linkage with the steel bar of the foundation. So normally the shape of duck legs is preferred in order to bend the steel. The seventh important parameter that has to be considered is clear cover. So clear cover is actually the distance from the center of the from the outer space or the outer side of the bar to the outermost periphery of concrete periphery or concrete cover. So normally it is provided to keep the steel bar safe from deterioration, from environmental changes, or maybe from fire. So the minimum requirement of the clear cover is 25 to 40 millimeter. This is the minimum value that should be provided while designing any column. The eighth important factor while designing the column that has to be considered is the area of the column, which means that the column should have a constant and uniform area all the way from bottom to its top. So both areas should be same in order to have symmetry and have the same centroidal axis. That is really important in sort of buildings and in all kind of structures. The next important factor is the distance between columns. So normally the 5-meter span is allowed between two columns. That is the quite safe distance, and this is the minimum distance that you can have between the columns. However, the distance of the column depends also on various factors. The length of the beam, the types of the beams, and also the conditions of the loading. So there are a lot of factors that actually govern the distance between the columns. However, for general specifications, it should be noted that 5-meter distance is a quite safe distance. The next one is about the size of an RCC column. So when we consider and select a column on the trial basis, then we consider and we should choose the column not less than having the size of 225 millimeter square. So it should be a square column, and as we mentioned earlier, like in a column, the minimum number of bars should be 4, and it should have 12 mm bars. So this is the minimum size and number of bars for RCC column. So in this lecture, we actually went through the basic rules of designing columns. These are the rules for preliminary selection of any column. So if you found this lecture helpful, then please subscribe our channel, because we make a lot of videos on daily basis. And I hope that you would continue to learn from this channel. Thank you and see you.